Let's tackle some of this quarterback news. Now, I brought up the through hell or high water quote from Robert Saleh when discussing Zach Wilson. We'll get to the take from Salah. Salah, he's done. Of course, the Jets, they're done as far as playoff contention. The Dolphins can beat the Jets this week, and if the Patriots lose to the Bills, which is viable, the Dolphins will be in the postseason. But let's go through some of this quarterback information. Let's start with Robert Saleh talking about his quarterback and Zach Wilson.
I think the greatest strength and greatest gift you can give yourself as a human is to figure out what's important to you. What do you value, and how can you stick to those values day in and day out? That is the greatest gift you can give yourself, is to discover yourself. And I think Zach needs to get away, read a book, and figure that out. Zach has got all the talent in the world, and we have all the confidence in the world in him. It's just, like I said, from this reset, and we're gonna grind with him. We are, and through hell or high water, we're gonna figure out how to get him to where we know he can be.
There's the money quote. So he said Zach Wilson needs to read a book. He's been reading The Daily Coach. How about that? Your boy Robert Saleh. So through hell or high water. By the way, the Jets are favorites at Miami. Of course, Mike White under center. They're laying point and a half. Miami needs to win to get in. But Miami, they signed as an insurance policy, Mike Lennon, Bridgewater, dislocated pinky, throwing hand. So Skylar Thompson looks to be up here.
And Mike Lennon might be in the game. I mean, the way that Miami goes through quarterbacks. I would say this. I think that Robert was really talking out of both sides of his mouth. When he introduced the concept that you have to understand what's really important in your life, he's saying that Zach Wilson doesn't know what's important in his life. So if you don't know what's important, how are you going to get him turned around? Reading a book isn't going to help him turn around. If your passion isn't there, if that's not the most important thing, then it's going to be very challenging. And for me, my question should have been to Robert, like, why don't you just play him? This game means nothing. You're out of the playoffs. If he's going to, why not let him get back on a bike? I mean, when we teach kids how to ride bikes, they fall down, they get back up, they got to get back on the bike. Why would you not put him back on the bike? You know why you won't put him back on the bike? Because nobody in the locker room wants him on the bike. So that's another hurdle. You can put all the rhetoric you want out there, but you're talking out of both sides of your mouth here. Like that's exact. You're saying the kid doesn't have these qualifications you got to have in life, and then you're describing we're with them all the way. But really, what you missed was you didn't connect the two. Unless he gets that, he's not going anywhere. Like, we're wasting our time. Do you think it's just going to happen from reading a book? Christ, how many books have you read on Warren Buffett? Have you made any more money?
Well, to be fair, if you read your book, I think you'd co-sign that. Now, let me set this up for you because I want you to run with it. The Jets started 7-4. They've lost 5 straight. I mentioned they're eliminated from the postseason. Salah's 11-22. How about Joe Douglas, the GM? 4 straight losing seasons. He trades away Darnold to then draft Wilson.
4 A's. Don't lose sight. He's had 4 A pluses.
Trust me, I know. He drafts Becton, even though people said weight issues, potentially injured. He hasn't played in 2 seasons. He hasn't built an offensive line since he's been there. Looks like he swung and missed on Jermaine Johnson. He got Breece Hall, Sauce Gardner, and Wilson Wright. Other than that, where's the success for Salah and also Joe Douglas, the general manager here?
Well, I mean, if I'm Joe Douglas, I wonder if I have the right guy coaching my team, right? I don't know. Do I? I think that's the most important. Now, Woody probably was part of this hiring, but, last week was really, I went back and studied that tape. I mean, they did not play with a lot of energy. They did not play like they were holding the receipts. The first run of the game, they got a guy sitting in the hole, doesn't make the tackle, the safety. I mean, it's bad. And they couldn't stop the run. I mean, they forced Patrick. What people don't realize, we have this perception that they have this incredible defense, right? They forced 2 turnovers since the bye week. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're built on forcing turnovers. And let's be clear here. Let's be perfectly clear here. In week two, if they don't have that miraculous, unbelievable 17-point fourth quarter, 17-point, and if the Brownies don't miss the extra point and all those things don't happen, we're talking about a team that's the record is 1 game less and further from the playoffs. Think about the remarkable how the margin is so tight. And yet we're acting like they're just really 1 step away. When we break down their schedule, that game was a miracle. I'll give you another miracle. They scored 21 points in the fourth quarter against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was a miracle, right? They came back in that game. So, when I watch this, I'm listening. Like, the hardest thing to do is to understand who you are. You can't change who Zach Wilson is. You're not going. This is who he was before you drafted him. He just didn't become this because you made him the second pick. He likes football. He doesn't love football.
3 of the 4 Jets quarterbacks, Mike White, Joe Flacco, and your boy Strevler, are going to be free agents. That's the reason that was such a pointed quote, because what's fascinating? Salah, where his family lives, where his kids go to school, Joe Douglas, the same. A lot of this is tied to the quarterback. Think about that. So what they're doing with Zach Wilson and what they're doing with the quarterback position moving forward has ramifications that go well beyond just Zach Wilson and his potential. It's huge.
Yeah, I mean, since week 8, they come back from Denver. They got the Sunday afternoon game against New England in week 8 to start the season. They have won 2 games. And they have lost 5. I mean, so no, excuse me. They have won. They have lost 7.
They've lost 7. That's correct. They have lost 5 straight.
They're 2-7. And their record really is, if I were we're really a 6-10 team right now because we got so lucky against the Brownies. I mean, it took a complete meltdown. Like that, we stole one. And you say, well, we lost to Minnesota. That balances it out. Maybe, okay, I could give you that. But at 7-9, you're not any closer. You gave up almost 200 yards rushing. I mean, you couldn't beat New England, who's not having a good team. And the fact is, you're a team built on turnovers. You haven't created any turnovers, in the last 2 months of the season.
The defense was horrible last year and has declined and has regressed as we've gone through the season. And Salah's the defensive guy. Most of the focus is going to be on the offense and the quarterback. Do you think this is just rhetoric so they can figure out what they're going to do in the offseason at quarterback? Where do you think the Jets ultimately stand going into the next season?
I think they believe it. I think that they believe that they have to rehabilitate him. I think there's 2 fashions here. He's holding firm on Mike LaFleur. He doesn't want to. Mike LaFleur is his guy. They're best friends. They're 28th in the league in third down offense. They're 29th in red zone. I mean, you say, well, they look a lot better when Mike White plays quarterback. Okay, maybe they do. We didn't look better last week. All right, so I think that they know they have to fix – so he's got a lot of pressure to fix the offense. And then he's got to fix the quarterback. But I don't think there's no way they're going to give up on Wilson after 2 years. I think they believe there's talent there. But if you study what makes quarterbacks great, it's more than talent. I tell this story to people all the time. Trent Green's an 8th-round pick out of the San Diego Chargers who gets cut. He goes to Canada. He gets cut. He's only signed to the Washington practice squad because his college coach, Cam Cameron's the quarterback coach. And through his hard work and dedication and through his commitment and through his level of passion for the game, he overcomes and he becomes an NFL Pro Bowler and a really good quarterback. It's more than just arm strength and foot movement. And you can't create that passion. You can't create that inner drive. It's what Springsteen says. I didn't want to be a star. I wanted to be great. You don't want to be an NFL quarterback. You want to be great. That ain't Zach Wilson right now. I don't know if you change it, Patrick.
Is it innately in there, is what you're asking? Right now,
I think it is.
See that.
I think it is. I think it's one of the traits we can't really identify when we evaluate quarterbacks. The instincts and the passion to say, I'm going to be great. Joe Burrow, and if you worked out Joe Burrow and Zach Wilson in the same setting, you would take Zach Wilson. But what Joe Burrow has that you can't see is that I want to be great. I can win. I mean, remember now, Urban Meyer picked the late Dwayne Haskins and played him and forced Joe Burrow to transfer because he didn't measure that gene that we're talking about here.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.